Good morning. My name is Ross Cunningham. I'm the President and CEO of the Kennebec Valley Chamber, and welcome to the Kennebec Valley Chamber Business Insider Breakfast. These events are sponsored every year by Central Maine Power and Kennebec Savings Bank, and we appreciate their support. It's our opportunity this morning to hear from Karen Carberry Warhola from the Maine Film, let me make sure I get this right, the Maine Film Office. And one of the reasons we really want her here today is because, as you know, we really work hard as a chamber to promote our region. And also we need to work as a state to promote our state. And one of the best ways to get the word out about the great things that are happening in Maine is to get people to come here from away and film things in Maine and advertise the great things happening in Maine. So I'm thrilled to have Karen here to talk to us about some of that this morning. She's been with the Maine Film Office since 2012, but has years and years of industry experience working out in LA. So without further ado, here's Karen.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today and speak with you about the film industry in Maine. I have spent my entire career in the film industry in Maine. The longest stretch was in LA for the Disney group of companies. I came back to Maine. I'm from Maine, so I grew up here, and I'm happy to be back and happy to be working with the film community in Maine. I did want to speak with you today about some opportunities you have to participate in the film industry in Maine, and just to tell you a little bit about it. I think I'm going to start first just to let you know about our office. A lot of people don't know that the film office exists, including some filmmakers, but most states have a film office, and the states that have a film office have a website. We are part of the state government. We are within tourism for the state of Maine, which is within the Department of Economic and Community Development. So what we do, we market Maine as a filming location. The same way that tourism markets Maine as a tourism destination, we market Maine as a filming location for in-state productions and for productions from away. We help all productions who are in Maine, whether they're scouting in Maine or they have their boots on the ground. Anyone who's filming in Maine, we help them. And the filming in Maine does include not just films, it includes TV shows, TV episodes, still photography. Fashion designers love the cobblestone streets in Portland. Car commercials love the roads in Acadia, the long roads. It includes institutionals, news companies come here. The BBC's been here before. There's been HGTV shows done here before. Lots of different types of productions. So we work with all of them. We also work to help grow the film industry in Maine, and we help to support the local economy and the local filmmakers who are here. Because as I said, there's a really active film community in Maine, a local film community, and they're really talented people. And we want to see them stay. So many of them have gone away to other states, most notably LA or New York, but a lot of them have stayed and they continue to work here and thrive here, and we really want to keep them and their films here too. So I did want to talk to you about a couple ways that you can get involved. There are two databases on the Maine Film Office website that provide 3 opportunities for you to get involved. And there's also one other opportunity which could be considered a benefit, and that is film tourism. That's always, that's something that's been around for a while, and it's been really hard to quantify, but it's starting to be done, and people are starting to talk about it, and it is really growing and becoming a big industry. So the 2 databases that are on our website, the first one is a locations library, and that's photographs of Maine. It's buildings, it's communities, it's businesses. If anyone wants their business to potentially be a location, a filming location, please feel free to add photographs of your business to the website. When I came on board, we added what we call, it's a locations tool where you can upload photos onto the website. If you have any questions about doing it, need help with it, have questions about what your photographs should look like, please feel free to call me. I have my business cards here today. I'm happy to pass them out, but I'm happy to help anybody who wants to try to get their business in the locations library. Also your community, the towns you live in. A lot of times People might think that the rundown gas station at the end of the road isn't very attractive and maybe filmmakers wouldn't want it, but that's exactly the sort of thing some of them are looking for. If you're ever watching a film or a TV series, I invite you to turn off the volume for a minute and just kind of look at the screen and see what's there. You'll see churches, you'll see schools, you'll see hospitals, restaurants, gas stations, markets. You'll see all sorts of buildings and locations on it. So if you think like a building that you might have, or if your own personal property, your house, if you own property in Maine and would like to have that considered as a filming location, you can load that as well. And if you don't think filmmakers are going to like it, just head to your TV, turn off the volume, and look a little bit, and you'll see a lot of different looks on TV shows that you watch. So you can add photographs to that and of your community if you want something to come to your town so that your town can be featured in a show. Please feel free to take shots around your town of the downtown area or of anything else, if there's bridges or anything of note in your community that looks interesting or different. And again, if you're not sure, please feel free to call me. So that's a really great opportunity to get involved for your businesses if you want films, productions to film in your business, or if you want them to film in your home or your community. The other one is the production guide, which is also on every Film Office website. The production guide is divided into, again, it's another database. This one is not pictures, it's listings. And it's two-part. The production guide has crew and it has businesses. You can put a listing in either one of them or both of them if you want to. You can list your business in. And I know that a lot of people don't realize how far the reach extends to how many businesses the film industry uses. A lot of people think it's just, film industry directly related businesses, but it can include anything. It's restaurants, hotels, gas stations, car rental, medic supplies, lawyers, banks, office supply companies, lumber, any place that sells lumber, any place that sells cloth or anything that can be used to make costumes, makeup, construction companies, lumber, they rent porta potties. I had a call for one production that was shooting something in Maine in the wintertime, and they wanted to get from location to location. And of course the ground was covered in snow, and they wanted to rent some snowmobiles so that they could carry the camera equipment from one location to another. They also needed to rent an RV to use as a production office so they could go in from the cold occasionally and have lunch or a cup of coffee. So it's so many different types of businesses that their services are used, goods and services are used in the film industry. And if you have any question about whether or not your business would be one of those, please feel free to call me. If you list your business, there's different categories you can list under. If you don't see a category that lists your business, please feel free to call me. We'll just add the category. I recently had somebody call me about Maine Guides, because the company that built the database, that's not something normally that they had in there that most people would use. In Massachusetts, they have a lot of plastic surgeons listed. We have Maine Guides starting to be listed. If ever any productions contact you, we'd love to hear about it, because the more we can know about what's going on in Maine, the more we can talk about it, and the more we can raise an awareness of it. And if they call you, we're happy to vet any productions for you. Please feel free to like us on Facebook so that you can follow news, that's going on about the film industry in Maine. And film tourism is huge. I just came back from a symposium that was strictly on film tourism. And it's actually amazing. I know that there was a film that shot in northern Maine beneath the harvest sky, and Sarah Sutherland, Kiefer's daughter, was in that. And it's my understanding that when filming was done, she stayed for 2 weeks afterwards because she just loved it and she was having a great time. And when productions come to Maine, they see Maine and they have a chance. They're all potential tourists, everybody who comes to work on one of those productions. And we get them coming here from Belgium, from the UK, Japan, They come from all over, different countries as well as the U.S. Within the U.S., some of the biggest two areas in the U.S. that productions come from are New York and L.A. And every person who comes in is a potential tourist. And it's amazing to me because everywhere I go, I introduce myself as, the director of the Maine Film Office, and the minute I say Maine, it has such an incredible brand recognition that as soon as I say Maine, it's like 6 degrees of separation between me and anyone that I'm talking to, and it doesn't matter where I go. They've either been here, they vacationed here, they have family here, and if all else, it's on their bucket list of places they want to come see. So it's an incredible brand, and it's a great opportunity to reach out to potential tourists. It's a great opportunity for businesses to get some economic development. They hire local people. There's always the opportunity to be extras in the films that happen. But the main opportunities that I just wanted to point out to you today were the fact that we do have that production guide on our website. And we do have the locations library. There are films in Maine right now, productions, with their boots on the ground, and they are filming in Maine right now. There are many that are scouting in Maine right now. They'll stay at your hotels and you may not know who they are. I get phone calls all the time from them after the fact when they've left sometimes and before they come. They're here. I get phone calls all the time, so they're filming here now, they're scouting here now, they're calling my office. I just recently met with 3 different productions that want to do films, independent films in Maine in 2016. So it's a great opportunity for your business, for your community, for your neighbors. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. If anybody has any questions about how you might get involved or about the filming industry in Maine, what they're looking for.
2 questions. One, you've sort of answered the first one. How much filming goes on in a given year? And then 2, what does your office do that makes that independent company more likely? I mean, Maine's got a great visual look anyway. So
Yeah.
What is it that you do that makes it more likely that they would end up deciding to do?
Right. I'm sorry, what was the first part of your question?
How much filming goes on?
How much filming? There's a fair amount of filming that goes on in Maine. It's not unusual for 2 or 3 features a year to shoot in Maine. Plus, there's a lot of every time we pick up a catalog like a J. Crew or something, it happens all the time, and you'll see that filming was done here in Maine for catalog shoots as well. So there's so much that goes on in Maine that we're not even aware of until we see it in the catalog or on television. There's Northwood's Law right now. There's a TV series. There's been a couple other Downey Stickering, a couple other television shows that have been in Maine. There's been a lot of HGTV, do-it-yourself, Discovery, sort of History Channel productions that have filmed in Maine. There's a fair amount of production in Maine. And what we do to help bring productions here is that we have wonderful locations, but we try to point out some of the things that productions look for beyond the locations. Everyone knows Maine has lighthouses and coastal communities, and certainly if any production wants a lighthouse in their shot, we want them to come film here, and we will reach out to them. But we also want them to know that we have lakes, we have farmlands, we have streams, we have mountains, we have just some beautiful, it's just letting them know about the other things that would surprise them that they don't know are here in Maine. And also letting them know about the crew and letting them know about you guys and the support services that are out here. They call oftentimes looking for hotels to stay at. In fact, I had a production call me once before, a couple years ago, and they wanted to meet me someplace for dinner. And so I suggested Cloud 9. And we met here. They ended up by staying at the hotel. They finished their film. It actually had its East Coast premiere at the Maine International Film Festival, Estrella. It's a wonderful film, and they were great to work with. And it's people like that and helping them to know what's available for them. We help them find locations. They can see our beautiful scenery, but they may want a specific thing that they're looking for. We help them find it. And was there? Yeah.
I know that a lot of states provide incentives for
Yes.
large film productions to come to their states, and Maine doesn't provide as much of an incentive as some other places. Did you find that? Why is that being
Maine has what I generally describe as an incentive package that isn't as robust as other states. What we do have incentives, which is good. There are some states that don't have any. Plus, Maine has a lot of what I call soft incentives. And when I talk to a production, I try to point out the economic benefits that aren't directly related to the incentive package. But yes, you're correct, our incentive package isn't as large. But it's so much less expensive to film here in many ways. In a lot of times, if they're shooting in a huge city like Boston or Philadelphia or any other city, it can be really exorbitant in costs to be able to shut down streets, to be able to hire security to watch the sets. And a lot of that in Maine isn't here. Plus the fact that we have some really great crews here. And we have really film-friendly communities. In the a little over 3 years that I've been in the office, I am not surprised, but I am really pleased to hear the feedback from producers who have shot in Maine. They love Maine and they love Mainers, and they have found that the communities and the businesses and the people have really opened up their arms to them, and they want to come back, which is wonderful. Any other questions? Go ahead.
What are some of the more effective ways you have to reaching out to out-of-state film companies and telling them about us?
You know, one of the best things I can do is to go wherever filmmakers are and meet them. And once you meet them face to face and talk to them, and it does give me the opportunity to explain there are some portions of our incentive program that really help smaller budget productions. The incentives are not going to be, that raises a good point here, the incentives are not going to, current incentives are not going to bring in like huge tentpole productions, but they will bring in what is a growing part of the industry, which is independent filmmaking. And I'm able to point out the parts of the incentive package that are really good for them. So, I'm sorry, your question?
Well, I just was wondering what your methods of reaching out to these companies are. And
going where filmmakers are, it gives me an opportunity to talk to them. When I go to a film festival and I'm standing in line anywhere, you know, I could have a distributor in the line behind me. I could have a film rep in the line in front of me. They're all over the place, and it's great talking to them, identifying what types of productions are shooting in Maine and what type of production companies are, and reaching out to them. It's mainly, and putting out a lot of word of mouth. The one film that I told you about that shot here a couple years ago, the Maine International Film Festival did a interview with them, with the producer, and unbeknownst to me, he talked about the film office and said some really wonderful things. He has agreed to allow us to utilize the footage, so we're starting to get that out. So when you do have people who come here and are happy, putting the word about them out to other people, I try to introduce people who've shot in Maine and been happy in Maine with the communities that they've worked with and the footage that they've gotten and their experience overall in working here. Introducing them to other filmmakers who want to film here is huge because they go by word of mouth. They listen to each other. If it's been a good experience or a bad experience, they'll seek out other productions that have filmed here to ask them what their opinion is.
TV production companies, I did Empire Falls here.
Yes.
How do you relate to that part of the industry?
Empire Falls was probably one of the last really big productions that we had filming in Maine. It was really great for the community. It was at a time when I happened to be out in LA at the time, so I wasn't here to experience it, but I've heard from people who have. They kind of came into Maine just when incentives were starting. So that kind of came on board before it came to Maine, and then once incentives started to grow and production started looking at incentive packages as a major means for deciding where they were going to film. But when they came here, they did a lot of good for the community. People who live in the community still talk about it. And again, it's film tourism. There was a film that was shot in Maine years ago on the coast of Maine, and every once in a while, like on the 50th anniversary of the film being released, fans of the film will come to the town where that film was shot, and they will come and have a celebration to celebrate the film. So I believe that was Peyton Place? Yeah. So So it's great, and you know, just the footage that came out of all of these films that are there, other people see them and they want to see Maine. I was telling a story earlier about how there is a production company in LA that calls me quite frequently, and the gentleman who calls me says that he had been golfing with somebody who was with one of the major cable networks. And in the midst of golfing, he turned around and said, "Maine, I want to have a show in Maine, get me a show in Maine," and then went back to his golfing. So Maine is such a great brand. People really like it, and it's not overexposed, which is another thing that I like to talk to people about. I had one phone call from one production, and I was on the line talking about locations. They said, "Oh yeah, we're on Google Earth right now," and we saw that. I was talking to them about northern Maine, and in an area that we didn't particularly have any photos in our location library to show them, and they said, "Oh, we saw it on Google Earth." You know, so they're looking at Maine. They constantly are looking at Maine. The fact that it hasn't been overexposed already on the big or the little screen is very attractive to filmmakers too. People are curious about Maine and they want to see more of it.
So assuming that we're not going to change the statewide incentives any immediate future, is there anything we can do as a region or as individual communities to offer some sort of incentive package that would help these organizations look at us seriously?
There are some areas that do that. There are some states that offer, I think Florida is an example of that, where some of the local communities do offer incentives as a community that, when paired with the state incentives, make the incentive package a whole lot more attractive. So yeah, a lot of places are doing that. I can always follow up with you on some examples of who's doing that and what they're doing. But yeah, that's a great point. And also, so you know, and I'll come back to you, also so you know, there is a film bill that's kicking around in Augusta right now. It is LD 1004, Representative Pashotti, and that bill was passed by the House and the Senate last legislative session at the end of the session and was sent to appropriations, and the session ended. So it was moved forward to the next session. So when the next session starts again, they'll come back up. It's already been passed by the House and Senate, but it needs to have funds. Sorry. I should know better than that. I work in this industry. It needs to have funds appropriated to it before it becomes law. If that doesn't happen, then we'll continue with the incentives that we have. But you know, that's also something that you know, if you're aware of that and you're interested in seeing that pass, if anyone wants information, I can send you links to what the bill is, give you some sort of an explanation what it is. You can also speak to the representative who is sponsoring it, and just to let you know that is out there.
Great. What about, do you have guidelines for communities or chambers of commerce to make their communities film friendly, so they get seen or they know how to attract films to their communities and provide guidance like that?
That is something that the Film Office has not done in the past, but we have been talking about starting that. It is a program that some states do at various times. We've been talking about starting a camera ready program so that communities can be aware of what to expect when a production comes to town, and know how to best attract them, to know what they're looking for. And so that we can get to know your communities and what companies you have and what resources you have for the productions, so that then we can let you know that's a great one, and we can also let the producers know about it. So that's part of coming here and talking to the chamber. This is a step in it, because I would like to get out there and speak with all chambers around the state. You are a great resource for your community. Has a link to productions. I often provide productions to provide introductions to production companies and introduce them to the local chamber, because you guys know the businesses. You know what's in your town. You know what your streets are. If they're looking for a particular thing, I had a phone call from one production who wanted a sign saying "Welcome to a certain town," and I had no idea where in the town it was. But I introduced them to the local chamber, and they helped them find everything that they needed to in the area. So you are definitely a group of people that I always keep in mind when productions call my office, and I would definitely refer any productions that call, and if they're looking for a specific thing that I know is in your area, I'd be happy to give you guys a shout out as well. But yeah, we are thinking about doing a camera ready program. We're in the midst of organizing it and figuring out what we'd like to cover in it and how we'd like to administer it. And as soon as we do that, we will be reaching out to the chambers such as yours. It's a great question.
I had a related question to what was just asked. In addition to figuring out how to make communities camera ready and give guidance, have you given any thought to guidelines on how to help communities understand what the production companies want to do and how they're going to do it?
Yeah.
A number of years ago when Mel Gibson filmed Man Without a Face in Rockport and Camden and Rockland, there was some degree of friction between folks who had one set of expectations and the film company's expectations, and it led to some uncomfortable moments over in those communities. And you know, is there a way that you could help, your office could help prevent those from occurring as opposed to letting them organically arise?
Sure. That would definitely be part of any sort of camera ready program that we would do. A huge part of a camera ready program is letting the local area know what to expect, what productions need, what they look for, what kind of time frame they work on, what kind of goods and services they'll need, how to interact with them, and also us finding out from you if a production contacts us and wants to film in your community, who's your best contact? I mean, if they want to shut down a street, who should they call? And it's also good, I had mentioned, you know, if any productions come into your area, please feel free to give us a call, because we'd really like to help head off that sort of thing with any productions that come in. If we know there's a production coming in town, we would be happy to come. We'd be happy to speak to the production, to speak to the local community, just to provide any sort of assistance and help facilitate the production going well, because that's definitely something, I mean, we want productions to come to Maine, but we want them to be a good fit for Maine and our communities as well. So definitely that's a great point to bring up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. I did just want to let you know that I have 2 press releases that I brought with me. One of them is about the locations guide, the other's about the production, the locations library, the other one's about the production guide. I'll have copies of them, my business card. You can always email me, and I can just send you these by email if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you all very much for coming, and I hope that you will join us this evening at Stained Glass Express, and we will see you here next month. Thank you.